Hello everyone, Arvind here, and as a part of knowledge sharing, I just thought we'll do starting with firewall. So this is my second video on the subject. So you would find many things easily explained. You can find a lot of jargons being explained, and where things can go wrong. And when you trust people, how do they let you down? And those things is what you might find in this particular portion of this video. At all the times, I will be referring to real-time scenarios that I would have faced in my career, and which could give an insight into how you can correct it or use those knowledges for your own benefit. Firewall. Where did the name called firewall come from to this devices? So basically, in the olden days, they used to have channels dug all across the fort, and they used to have water as a deterrent. They used to put live crocodiles into that. Some places they used to have dry path, and they used to have lions and other ferocious animals living there, so that if somebody tries to cross it, and it would capture, it will eat them. And some places they used to have trenches where they will pour oil and they'll burn it, and that burning was treated as a firewall. So there were so many methods of it, and that's where the name comes to this particular device as firewall, because we are trying to save the organization's assets. So that's how this firewall name came. So when you talk about firewall, there are so many words that are there. So deep packet inspection, application filtering, antivirus protection, spam filtering. So and there are many more. Somebody will call XDR, somebody will call something else. They'll keep on calling with different names. Let's look at different types of firewalls. So essentially, all firewalls, they either use Linux or any kind of Unix flavor OS on the background. The reason being is Unix is built with the networking on the OS platform itself. Unlike Microsoft, where you have to install Ethernet cards, drivers, and then you have to make it working. So in Unix platform, it is in part and parcel of the OS itself, and it has got, and that is the reason many people use firewall out of Unix environment, because it's pretty safe and straightforward, and you can thin it out as much as possible to give you only the essential services. So that way it becomes more efficient to use the firewall operating system with good performance. So there are broadly speaking, there are two categories. One is software firewall and one is hardware firewall. So when you talk about software firewall, the application is installed on a PC or a server which has got two interfaces, where one will allow the incoming traffic and the other one will filter and send the outgoing traffic. So this would be the any software firewall will do this, and that it does not mean that they perform less than a hardware firewall. They perform sometimes not many times better than a hardware firewall. The reason being is, normally you tend to buy a higher capacity system, okay, with a lot of configuration, which will give a extremely good performance. Okay, you might use a Intel i5 processor, but whereas in a hardware firewall, they might not go for that. They might go at a much lower level of processor, because they're going to handle only certain things, not everything like a regular PC is doing. So your software firewall performance can be really high compared to a hardware firewall that you might purchase. Okay, so but the software firewall comes, you get a lot of application like pfSense. There are so many software that you can install. In fact, you don't need any software at all. You can just do it at the command line, or at with a GUI level. You can even create some kind of firewalls, rules and regulations, and you can still use it. So that's how software firewall can be used. Okay. When it comes to hardware firewall, the options are limited in terms of what is the capacity of the hardware that they give, because it is usually vendor driven, and what is the OS that you're going to use, and what are the features that you're going to do. In a software one, you can add and delete feature as you want. And in hardware firewall, they will put a lot of restrictions in the name of number of users, number of throughput. All these restrictions will be there because they try to reduce the unwanted things as much as possible to give only importance to the core part of the firewall that they are trying to sell. Okay, and added to that, the prices are higher because they are customized to a certain requirement. Okay, you talk about Fortinet, you talk about Sophos, you talk about Palo Alto. They all are built on Linux platform, and they give you hardware to work as per the requirement or the specification that they have given. So both have got their own advantage. They have also negative point. In software firewall, normally what happens is you have to have the capability to support it to a very great extent. In a hardware firewall, what happens? The company takes the responsibility to support the hardware. So this is the one major thing that I could think of. Okay. Otherwise, technically speaking, both the softwares, hardware as well as the software firewall, both the software work very well. Okay, so these are at a broader level. Okay, then when you talk about packet filtering firewall basically does not bother about from where it has come, who has come. It will just open up all the packets and check for all the details, and then it will establish the connection on its own. Okay, so independently it will do. It does not bother about, and it will open up every packet that is coming in, and then it will inspect that, and based on that is what it will route the traffic. So then circuit level, it monitors the TCP/IP connection, active sessions. Okay, then what it will do is it will check similar packet filtering check. Does not analyze the content of the data packet associated with it. Okay, it will not analyze that. It will just look at the traffic, and then it will just circuit level gateway. This is what is one kind of firewall. Then proxy is basically it will give you a port which is not real, which proxy means somebody else there, and so that you can hide the internal users. Okay, so you can hide the internal user from getting into the external sites, web pages and nothing, so that people don't have direct connections to your office. It comes through a proxy. It's something like you go to a hospital, you have to go to the front desk, and from there they will direct you to which doctor you have to go. So basically you don't know which doctor you're going to go. When you go inside, you have to hit the front desk, and once they give you the assignment, then you go to that particular doctor. Okay, they'll give a door, they'll say this is room number so and so, you have to go. Room number 10 you have to go. You'll go. Similarly, here also what happens is proxy server will take care of where it has to go. Proxy server will act like a server, but it will decide where to go depending on the rules and regulations set, how we configure it. Cloud firewall is that is it. For what happens is normally we have our own firewall generally in all the places. But what nowadays, because the cloud systems infrastructure has come up, the firewall can be kept in the cloud itself. Okay, the application will run from there. You will just point all your applications to that. Okay, you will create a tunnel, and you will allow the traffic to flow through that firewall. So it basically what happens is, supposing you have 50 different locations, and you don't need one firewall for each location. So you just put it on the cloud, and you ensure that all the traffic flows through this particular cloud firewall. It makes sense when you are distributed and you don't have much of resources and nothing. You reduce the resources, and it can be monitored from one single point. So this is what is cloud firewall. The next generation firewall. The next generation firewall, they do something called a deep packet inspection. When you talk about deep packet inspection, basically it will open up the packet, and then it will see what it is, whether it is a malicious one or not, whether it is assigned properly, or it will try to see what are the details, and then it will either allow the traffic to flow or not. Intrusion prevention, IPS, there is a lot of people talk about, and they are commonly available. But what happens is in the real world is many of the companies don't even bother to look at this particular law called IPS. Intrusion prevention system is basically when somebody is trying to intrude into your system, it detects it, okay, and then reports it. But our engineers are so busy or are unqualified that they don't know how to read the IPS, and that would leads to a repeated intrusion attempt. At some point of time, they can break in, and you get into the problem. Okay, so open system interconnect model is its filtration. So what happens? The open system interconnect is what there is a framework they use to they see which area the leak is happening and where they're trying to hit, and based on that the IPS will report it. How many of us really go and look into the IPS is a big question mark. I don't have a clear-cut data on that, and as far as I have seen in the industry, nobody really bothers to look into that the data, except Nick sends you a message saying that we have been constantly seeing there is an attempt from this particular IP address, and they try to look into the, but they never look into the IPS. They could have found it out before Nick comes and tells that, but that's how the world, I'm sorry to say, that's how the people are. They don't bother to look into the IPS, but they talk about IPS having, and that's it. You ask them, they'll say I have IPS. Gas and DPA, yeah, you'll have a depend. But who will monitor the log? Nobody. Okay, that's how it will be. Until unless somebody comes and complains that he didn't receive certain file or certain thing didn't happen, until such time nobody's bothered to look into the logs. So this should be a permanent activity. People should do, but they don't do. Okay. So I am basically talking about from my experience from the overall locations that I have seen in India abroad, and this is how the people behave. Okay, at least in US and other, they have a format and they follow up. Other countries, it's horribly bad. They don't really follow. Okay, it requires a lot of attempt to look into these logs. So network address translation is another kind of firewall where it will change the address between the public and the local address. So it will do the change of address. So it will pick up the address, it will change the address and then send it to the public one, and then it will change it and send it to the local one. So basically this will do ensuring that the local network is not exposed to the outside world. So unwanted malicious data, I think when they try to hit, it will stop it because it does not map to the network address table that it would have maintained. So the translation table, when it does not match, the traffic will be stopped, and so that way we safeguard many of these. Basically, we do that for servers where you have one public address from the ISP, and multiple servers are connected to the using different ports. Okay, so that's how this works. Now there is some lots of jargons that has come up in the recent days. Okay, it has been there for companies, but nowadays it has become a big selling point for many of the companies. The firewall people, they especially come up and use these words called EDR, MDR, XDR, SOC, SIM, UTV, MTDD, NCR, so many words. Okay. So what is endpoint detection response system is basically it runs on the desktops and the mobiles and other things where it is installed. So if something happens there, if the system finds it, it reports it back to the probably the main firewall that is there, or the application endpoint detection response server that is running there, and then it takes the appropriate action. Either it will shut down the port, or it will shut down the application, or it will what do you call it will stop it from operating further. It will generate an error. So these are endpoint detection and response. Most of the applications are there from most of the leading brands. Okay, there are many other brands also available. So you just have to see which EDR fits in your. So and normally they sell it in bundles. Actually, there is no need to sell it, buy from everything from one guy. You can buy it from different, because all the things are today all are open standard, so they have to follow the open standard instructions. So any application can intermingle and work. No, managed detection and response system. So managed detection is nothing but endpoint when it responds. Managed is basically it will manage on its own. So it will find out that when that it finds out an error, based on the previous experiences and other instructions and other configuration that we have done, it will react to that particular unused, or that it has the pattern that has come up today. Suddenly there is a new pattern of traffic. It will find that and it will try to mitigate that thing. If it is this is a policy to mitigate, it will mitigate. Otherwise, it will put it into it will put it into a what you call it will stop it from operating, or they have to stop the application. It will send the instruction to the endpoint system saying that don't operate this application, or it will say don't send this file. I said block the network, block the USB. So all these instructions can be, so it is managed one. So some people will be monitoring the system, which will give the alert, and based on that they will work. So someone has to monitor this. There are some automated rules. Somebody calls it AI, somebody calls it, and ultimately there are sets of rules and regulations which we have thought it, and it will follow and it will try to work on that. That's called managed one. Then extended detection is basically it will do more than what a normal detection is. So it will try to build up a scenario. It will be based on the experiences of other customers. So all this thing will be collected and kept it, and those based on other customers' response, if they see a pattern, and they will try to act on that. So extended is basically, MDR is basically looking at your own system and doing it. Extended is basically looking at other customers' details, or also where such scenarios happen, and then reporting it back. Okay, SOC is basically Security Operating Center. It's something like NOC, where all the security details, all the reporting comes there, and they will process it. And there will be some people who are good in security, trying to identify the security threats and other things. So they will take the appropriate action. So when the organization is big, where thousands and thousands of PCs and so network security operation helps them to control the outbreak of any ransomware attack or virus attack or something like that. They can see, they will have a transparent view of the whole network, and they know how to manage or mitigate the situation that has caused right now because of some breach or something, anything that is a threat to the organization. Okay. So SIMS is basic security information and event management. If there is an event, that is, see, when the moment you say an event, that means you know what it is. Okay. It is not something that you don't know. So the moment you know that there is such an event there, and that event, how to manage is, what the rules and regulations, it will be there, and they will follow it, and they will close it. Supposing there is a ransomware attack. So how do you manage that? So those are rules and regulations. So you switch off the systems, you disconnect the systems from the network, you report to the related cybersecurity agencies, you hire experts in that, and then you try to find out how can be, if it is encrypted, if the data is encrypted to, then you try to find out how it can be encrypted. If you want to pay for that as a ransomware, and then you try to find out how much money has to be paid, which is a legal way to go pay, and how to get rid of the issues. All these things can be done using this security information and event management. Unified threat visibility is basically an application which gives you a visibility about the threat that is possible. It is an application which runs through all the histories, data, syslogs that are collected, and then it will tell you the possible scenarios where the problems will come. So you can take actions before it actually occurs. So reducing mean time detection is another way of doing it. It is basically something like mean time between failure. So where you detect the problem and solve it. Okay. So some companies claim that the moment we see it on somebody, say within 10 minutes we will update your database also with that. So something like that is what they do it. So but there is a word given to them. NCR is no configuration required. That means you don't have to do it, just bring the box, put it, it will work on its own. Okay, that's simple as that. Okay, so these are certain things, these are jargons that you have to remember. Okay, because you don't have to be get scared. The moment you come, SIM, SOC, this is how they will SOC. Hey, you know this SIM, this SOC, XDR, MDR, you will get into a different world. So the moment you understand this logics and the abbreviations of it, pretty clear that there is nothing so alarming. You know what the job is. Okay. So firewall features, there are so many firewall features, but firewall's basic feature is to do some inspection on the IP and the packet, and then either stop it or allow it. Okay, that is the basic function that any system can do that. Antivirus is not part of the firewall's feature at all. Antivirus is something that has been added to the firewall, where it will find out that if their signature matches, then it will stop at the firewall itself. Similarly, like what you do in the desktop antivirus, it will do at the firewall. It does not even come to your desktop. Before it comes in, it will try to stop it. So spam filtering is also something that happens at the firewall level, usually at the mail levels. Okay, at email levels is what we do the spam filtering. So deep packet inspection is basically opening up all this. This is also available in most of the firewall these days, and this is part of the firewall. Application filtering. So which application should work, which application should not work, and which data should work. This is also add on to the firewall. Stateful inspection, dynamic packet flow. These are all part of it. Intrusion prevention is an add-on to that. Circuit level gateway, it is session layer. This was there. Hardware or software firewall. How much days logs are needed? See, say suppose also if some of the government agencies mandatory that you should have 6 months of data. Some say it is 180 days of data. So depending on what is the compliance requirement, you should look at how much days of logs you should maintain. Okay, then you have to look at the end of life of the product is defined. Okay, sometimes what happens is the end of the life of product is said to be next year, and you end up buying the product this year, and next year they say it's the end of the life, we won't support it, so you have to buy a new device. So always ensure that when you buy, you at least buy a product which is latest, so that next 5 years you don't have a problem of replacing the box. Especially it comes in the hardware, when you buy a hardware device. So they will say end of life after so many days. So you land into a problem of purchasing. So as a IT person, you should have at least a vision of at least 5 years, where the product is, when you buy today, it should at least last for next 5 years. And it should have the capacity depending on the growth of the company. Okay, if it's a software firewall, you can just change the base hardware and then you can do it. But if you buy appliance, then you also have to take care of the organization's growth pattern and then buy product that is suitable for you for the next 5 years. Okay, so you have to look at it. So these are certain things that you have to look at as a features. Okay, here are security policies. Security policies you should consider. So always you should give the least privileges. Okay, you should not give high privileges to anybody. You should give the least privileges by default for all the inbound traffic by default. Okay, then you have to be enumerating the data stores, application service, all these things. You should list it out and then say which one should work and which should not. You should put the rules there. So you should never use allow all, no, deny all, any to any, all these things all you should never use. Okay, you should avoid all this thing, because whenever we go into any case study, and when you go, and normally what we find is their network engineer is not qualified enough, and he does not understand the implications of any to any. They just give those things to the, at one of the rules will be any to any, and that is enough for any hacker to get inside the system and rule the network. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. This is ultra basic, but this is where common sense does not work. People do the mistake here. Okay, you have to identify what are your objectives, security objectives. So you should create based on, so every company has got its own security objectives. Based on that, you should put the rules and regulations and put the security in place. The policies should be kept in place. Something like policy does not mean that you have to write a firewall rule. That does not mean. In fact, putting something on the USB drive, bringing in bring your own device. All these things are all companies these days problem. Phone gets connected to the network. So all these things, how do you control this? So this is where you have to work out the overall picture. Okay, you have to get some security expert to understand what it talks about. See, NO to NO looks very easy, but you don't know the implication of it. Until an expert coming there will immediately see that. Because from my point of view, I am trained to do only that. I am trained to do only at the wrong things. Okay, right thing is fine. It's okay. Nobody's bothered about. The moment we see a wrong thing, we are supposed to get it. And exactly that is where people like me are trained to see the wrong things first. Okay, that's where the management skill comes in. Okay, that's where you do that. So you have to find out that. So you have to find out how the firewall architecture should be. Okay, very very important. You don't go by what the vendor. Normally, what happens? The vendor or SE calls him, and they will send one expert in the he does a firewall architecture. He will come and design your firewall. And that's okay. That's okay. He can give it as a service, but from your point of view, the organization point of view, you should know whether he's doing the work properly or not. Okay. So you should know what it is. Okay. I'm okay with you doing some audit and other things all, but they don't really give the picture because when architecture is being worked out, there are a lot of things that can be reduced. Lot of things price can be reduced. A lot of things that your unwanted thing can be reduced. All those things can be reduced. So because you don't know where to put the firewall, some places where there is a requirement of two firewalls in hard what you call back to back, what will happen? They'll put only one. So in case of failure, then entire system comes to a halt. So where there is no need to put a two firewall, they will put two firewalls there, thinking that there is a requirement because somewhere somebody would have mentioned it. So you have to take a call on the architecture, how it should be, how the IP address should be there, where you have to put a demilitarized zone, where all these things where you have to put interrupt, and then you have to see where the problems are. How do you filter traffic? How can you segregate the traffic in case there is a breach? All these things you have to look. You have to basically look like a military kind of a setup because you are fighting. Okay, that's what you're doing. So you are the border security force. So you need to plan everything and do it. Okay, but now okay, a lot of big companies do it, but average companies don't really bother about. They don't have the resources to spend, and it becomes expensive at many point of time. So you better hire somebody who knows the job, and at least some consultants who know the job, and they come and tell you what to do, and then that way your cost will be reduced, and you don't have to keep on paying them because you can only call them for the design portion of it. So that's what I do. I go design it, and I don't be there for long. Once I design, finish it off, and I make it running, I come out. Whenever there is a problem, they call me. I go and solve the issues, and I come out. So that way you keep your cost at minimum. You don't have any unexpected cost overruns and other things. So you have to create firewall rules. Firewall rules are very very important. But here also a lot of understanding of the firewall rules has to be there, and then you have to work it out because today's UTMs that they call, there are so many rules and regulations and so many portions and other thing. There is the very good chances that you might misconfigure it until you understand what it means. Okay. So remember, the good security policies is as good as the policies, the firewall policy, and how everybody follows the policies. Somebody keeps on putting the USB or demands, if you don't give me the USB drive, I will not give, production will get hit. All these things, all is fine. They will demand all these things, but you also have to understand that by doing that, you are putting the company into grave risk. It's something like there is the needle is dirty. You're trying to inject somebody with that injection, so you're obviously going to infect that body. So that's how you have to treat it. So all this data that is coming in, you never know which one is infected, which is not. So you have to be very careful that only authorized sterile information is what you have to send inside the what you call inside the office network. Okay, so you have to some of the things you should have to standard logging framework so that everywhere you have the same log aggregate and so basically that is why syslog is preferred because it uses a very standard logging system. So you don't have to have 10 systems. So all the log falls there, and it is easy to analyze that syslog, and then from there you can take the analysis data for your things. So all the firewall should be configured for logs. So surprisingly, many places they don't switch on the logging at all. Okay, so that is another one. Regularly, you have to look at the firewall and find out if there is anything wrong happening or suspicious thing that you see in the logs. Okay, again, you should know to look into the log. Not many people really know how to look into the log. Then firewall. So it has to be stored, log should be stored confidently, and it has to be stored in a separate place where it is not accessible to others. Generally, it should be one way. Once a log goes in, nobody should have access to that log. Okay, the reason given is because if there is a breach, normally what these hackers and others do is they go inside, they do all the things, and they delete the logs. So you don't know what these people did. But if you have a log and it is kept into a log, a syslog server, and you pump it there and there is no return way, one way traffic, then the logs are there forever. So you can go at any point of time, even if the system is lost, the logs are there in a different machine, and you can access that log after the activity, after the breach has happened, and then you can determine what action to be taken, how it happened, and how to prevent it in the future. So this would be extremely important thing that we should do. And again, the same thing is logs are generally kept in the firewall. They are not moved into a different location. Or given the challenges that the appliance people face is they don't give you enough storage space. The moment you ask for log storage, they will ask you humongous amount of money. For example, one of the firewall companies, if I'm not wrong, it is this famous brand. Suddenly, I'm not able to recall. So that box will come, and the logging, when you want to logging reporting, you have to buy a separate hardware. So and then that will cost a lot. So that's how that's their business model. They sell it, and you get into a loop saying that the data is there in the firewall. First they sell the firewall, and then when you want the logs to be extended for 180 days, they'll ask you to buy one more box appliance, which will again cost you a bump. And then so you have to be careful in doing it. If you buy some other brand, they will say we'll have 7 days of logs. Some of them will say as much I will give you 500 GB of data. As far as possible, it's okay. If it goes beyond that, you'll have to buy a new box. So somewhere they'll have a log to make money. It's okay. So you, as a smart IT person, you should know what is the logs you want, how much you want, what will be they will be giving you, and what would be the cost. So that way you will be able to secure your future. Okay. So remember, all these companies, they are there to make money. Okay. So it is when you are in trouble, they make money. So to be safe, it's like an insurance thing. So when you pay the money, so you have to be very careful not to trust anybody else except your own knowledge. Okay, if you trust the vendor's engineer, he will be favoring his own company. If you have vendor's architecture person, so he will be favoring his own. So the sales guy, he will be, don't go by the sweet talks that they all make. Okay, I have done here, I have done that, all this thing. So always remember to have a centralized logging, which will create secured in a secured location, so that when there is a problem, you will be able to retrieve it. And when it is a centralized one, the logs will be uniform. So reading and finding out the details will be easy for you to you will be able to correlate. Okay, then when you do when the logs are there, you can be able to correlate. So you should be good in logging all the firewall. It's excellent practice. Once you do that, once the incident happens, you will be able to find out what was the root cause, and then you will be able to solve it. If you don't have logs, you will not be able to find out what is the problem is. Okay. So after doing all this thing, testing the deployment is very absolutely important. You find out all the features, you test it out, and if it's certified and you people are satisfied, then deploy it into the live scenario. Otherwise, don't deploy it until you get a approval for all the. You create a checklist and check everything if it works both the sides. Okay. Sometimes what will happen is it will work one way, the other way it will not work. So because rules would have been written like that. So you should go find out and then do it. And always follow top-down rule is what most of the firewalls will follow. The first one that it applies, it will apply that. That's all. After that, whatever rule comes, it will not apply. So if you allow, then you say deny. Allow will be working, deny will not work. So you have to first always use deny, then use the allow rules. So this testing is absolutely important before deploying into the live scenario. So remember, not only this, the support matters a lot for the hardware that you buy or the software or the support persons. So if the support is not there, then you are in deep trouble. Okay, so you need the best support. Okay, many of the high brand they give good support. Okay, they give a very downtime, but most of the times what happens, the partner who has sold you the box, he will have one engineer who will come for you the support. Okay, in case if he is not able to support, the parent company comes. There is a delay in the support that is there, you can expect. So the partner's engineer, if he is good, okay, then support system is good, you can go with any brand. If the partner is not there, you will have to go with the brand and then you have to work with them. There is no other excuse. Or you have in-house, best is to have a good in-house engineers. Okay, fine prints in the agreement you have to watch it out, because they are always in the favor of the supplier. Okay, whoever is sold you the box. Okay, so you are not their interest. So they want to ensure that they are safe. So always there will be rules and regulations or the fine prints which will say that we are not responsible for this, that, and when the problem comes, you will be thinking that they will be responsible, but they will not be. So please read the fine prints before signing up the agreement and understand what they are talking about. Okay, and they actually, the companies will take you for a ride based on this document, and you will be helpless. You can't go anywhere. Okay, legally they will be correct. Okay, even though ethically they might be not correct, but legally they'll be correct, so you cannot do anything else. These are all practical things. I'm not exaggerating, I'm not talking about anything, but I have gone through this pain. Okay, so I'm telling you that. And have qualified and trusted people in your side. Okay, if you have a consultant, have a trusted person in your side. If you have and have qualified people in your side, don't just simply go and trust the vendors expert advices. Okay, they are there to support their company, not you. Okay, so that is their ultimate goal. You don't pay their salary, they pay their salary, so they will go and support them. So you have to be on your guard. So sales guys also similarly don't trust them, because they are there to sell, not to support you. Their job is to sell. So you have to keep your eyes, ears and open to safeguard yourself. Okay, sales guy, if he moves out of the company, what he will do? He will say, I am out of the company, I can't do anything. You have to go to the support and take the support, and that's how you are left alone. So don't trust all these things. Okay, you be on your own guard. In the overall conclusion, I might take a bit long for the conclusion because there are a lot of things. So deep inspection, so firewall feature examines the data part packet, okay, inspection part, searching for protocols, non-compliance, viruses, spams, intrusion, definition, all these things it will identify. Antivirus protection, we all know what is antivirus. So basically it will find out any malicious thing that signature repeat matches. It will not allow the packet to flow. Spam filtering. Spam filtering is filtering out the unwanted mails that is coming in. Application filtering. So allow the firewall to control by the specific codes of the application. Okay, types of firewall. Understand different kinds of firewall. There are hardware, software, packet filtering, circuit level. So you understand all this. You'll see which functionality suits you well, and then you purchase that one instead of going by whatever they say. Okay, security jargon. Be aware of all the security jargon, XDR, MDR, EDR, MTT, SOC, SIM. There are so many things. Okay, so be aware of the jargons. If you don't be ashamed to ask for the details of the jargons, because they might look silly, and they might you ultimately you will find that there is a silly thing about which they have made a jargon. So don't feel ashamed. Just ask them what does it mean, because you can't just make some words there. Okay, so you ask them. EOL of the product, at the end of life of the product, ensure that whenever you are purchasing, it should be at least 5 years it should serve you. Okay, firewall features, you look at what is there, number of days of logs you need, what is the firewall you need. Okay, compliance factor, is it meeting your company's compliance or industry compliance? Is it meeting the government compliance? Because suddenly the Indian government might come up and say, you cannot use non-made in India product for this. That's a compliance requirement. So you have to find out made in India equipment. Okay, and there might be certain things, the rules. Okay, so those rules are all whether it is compliance. You have to go and see. Okay, and they might say this product support has to be from this particular location. Okay, there you cannot have a support outside India. data cannot be stored out. So these are all some rules that Indian government has put in. So you will have to see those compliance factors, and then you have to keep that in your mind, and then you have to work it out. Okay. So security policies. So see the security policies. So use the least privileges. Don't give any privilege unwantedly. So don't give any to any those kind of things. All stop it. So remember, the best firewall depends on your specific needs. Okay, you cannot just go because somebody else. There are a couple of cases where I have seen they bought and got one of the big firewalls from FortiGate, which cost around a bomb around 40, if I'm not wrong, around 40 lakhs. And when I went and saw, it was like they could have done with SOFOS box, which is around 3.5 lakhs. So the company was the next year the company didn't go with the FortiGate, and they bought Sophos because of the price difference, because they could buy two boxes with half the cost, or not even one third of the cost of that. But that's how they sell. Okay, they fool you to buy it, and you buy it by the name and the way they present it. So you go by your consciousness, your thing. You see what is good, and then see whether it is worth it, and then go and buy those things. So thank you. If you have any doubts and any queries that you want, and you want any support in buying a hardware, software, or from the industry, it could be anything. You can even go for SAP, or you can go for firewall. You talk to me anything about it, because I have seen the entire bandwidth of application. I'll be able to help you in most of the places. Thank you for listening till now, and expect cybersecurity detailed study in an upcoming video. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye bye.